One of the more iconic scenes in the entire series is Daenerys walking out of the funeral pyre alive with 3 newly hatched dragons. And these little fire devils popped out of stone eggs, something believed to be impossible. There shouldn't have been life inside of those things, since time, we're talking about centuries, left them petrified. But the miracle did happen nonetheless. Daenerys wasn't the first to try and achieve this goal, however, just the only one that succeeded. Her family firmly held on to power over Westeros solely because of their dragons. Without them, it wouldn't be long before they were ousted, back to where they came from, across the sea. After the dragons went extinct 150 years back as a direct result of a Targaryen civil war within the family over succession, members of the family would desperately gather whatever dragon eggs were left of them and try to hatch them. And this is before time turned them to stone. Experimenting with how to hatch them is a costly thing. Each egg is worth a fortune. A treasure believed to be unreproducible, not like dragons were around to lay anymore, and each having a unique appearance, corresponding with the future hatched dragon's color pattern. So regardless of how filthy rich Illyrio was, gifting 3 to Dany on her wedding was exceptionally extravagant. Selling them would make you wealthy for the rest of your days. But still, the Targaryen kings that came before Daenerys experimented on them. Why keep them as jewels when if hatched, a dragon would truly be a priceless superweapon? King Aegon III was the first king of the 7 kingdoms to rule without having dragons. The last one that was born was stunted and disfigured, but did leave a clutch of eggs behind before her short life ended. Dragons left Aegon traumatized after the war, so wanted nothing to do with them at first. But in the later years of his reign, he finally realized how vital they were for their sovereignty. So he had 9 mages come over to Westeros from Essos, where magic is more openly practiced, to try and work their magic. But their efforts are described as both a debacle and a failure. So no luck for Aegon III, which wasn't good, because how long can fertilized life really survive within an egg before petrifying? He went with trying magic because the regular means were no longer working. Customarily, before the Civil War, dragon eggs would be placed in the cradle of a Targaryen baby, and soon enough it would hatch with an immediate bond to the child. It didn't necessarily have to be placed in the cradle to hatch. Many hatched within the layers of Dragonstone, but this was just how the Targaryens were doing things for a while, to assure a dragon rider for the family. The more detailed incident about restoring dragons happened during the reign of King Aegon V, 40 years before the start of the story. The older king had finally acted on his recent obsession with hatching dragons once again, in hopes of putting down all who challenged his rule. In his later years, this Aegon, nicknamed Egg for short, kinda ironic, huh? Was trying to find any lost knowledge of dragon breeding that was done in his family's homeland Valyria before the Doom took it. But their ancient writings of fire and blood magic was lost, so he made do with the practicing pyromancers he could get his hands on. And they decided to try and hatch the 7 eggs Aegon had presented with wildfire, the extremely flammable substance they believed to be similar to dragonfire. The plan backfired horribly, engulfing the entire Targaryen vacation castle in this magical chemical fire, killing everyone inside and likely destroying the eggs. Even the Mad King years later tried his hand at hatching whatever eggs he had access to, but gave up and settled for weaponizing wildfire instead. So how did Dany succeed where these 3 kings before her failed? King Aegon V's attempt was pretty similar to what occurred in that final scene of the first season and last chapter of the first book, with lives being taken in the same fire where dragon eggs were placed. But there were some differences, the obvious one being the lack of wildfire during Dany's ceremony. She had something even more dangerous, a proficient blood mage. Mirri Maz Duur being involved was likely the deciding factor of the outcome. Daenerys knew Mirri would be her sacrifice. Somehow she was certain that this plan would work out without dying. She didn't really have much to lose at this point in the story. Her child was just delivered stillborn, her husband and khal dead, his army gone, and she was expected to live the rest of her life in the Dothraki village of Osdothrak with the rest of the widows. Mirri was under the impression that Dany was trying to restore her husband yet again with her own attempt at blood magic during the funeral pyre, saying, "By itself, the blood is nothing. You do not have the words to make a spell, nor the wisdom to find them. Do you think blood magic is a game for children? You call me Maggie, as if it were a curse, but all it means is wise. You are a child, with a child's ignorance. Whatever you mean to do, it will not work. Loose me from these bonds and I will help you." Dany poured the oil over the woman's head herself. "I thank you, Mirri Maz Duur," she said, "for the lessons you have taught me." "You will not hear me scream," Mirri responded. as the oil dripped from her hair and soaked her clothing. "I will," Dany said, "but it is not your screams I want, only your life. I remember what you told me, only death can pay for life." Mirri Maz Duur opened her mouth, but made no reply. That last little bit about Dany understanding only death can pay for life is a huge bit of dialogue left out in the show. She was naive no longer. Deep down, she knew exactly how to revive the stone eggs, kind of like a mother's intuition. Sacrificing Mirri was likely more valuable for the ceremony because of how powerful she was. But there were others in that fire. Khal Drogo's body was there, along with a newly slaughtered horse for him to ride in the afterlife, as they believed. Possibly even Dany's stillborn disfigured baby Rhaego. I don't believe we're told where his body was placed, but it only makes sense that he would be included here. When the fire was lit, initiating the spell to restore and hatch the eggs, Mirri begins to sing in a shrill, ululating voice. Who knows if this foreign language were words for a spell, but I think she only helped things out for Dany unintentionally, when Mirri wanted nothing more than to see the Dothraki have their strength shattered and future carnage prevented. We even get some insight of what Dany experienced while walking straight into the fire. She felt the heat, but never once is pain mentioned. She heard a crack, the sound of shattering stone. The platform of wood and brush and grass began to shift and collapse in upon itself. Bits of burning wood slid down at her, and Dany was showered with ash and cinders, and something else came crashing down, bouncing and rolling, to land at her feet. A chunk of curved rock, pale and veined with gold, broken and smoking. The roaring filled the world. Yet dimly through the fireball, Dany heard women shriek and children cry out in wonder. Only death can pay for life. And there came a second crack, loud and sharp as thunder. And the smoke steered and whirled around her, and the pyre shifted, the logs exploding as the fire touched their secret hearts. Unafraid, Dany stepped forward into the firestorm, calling to her children. The third crack was as loud and as sharp as the breaking of the world. That was the moment all 3 dragon eggs were restored from stone and brought into the world. She always knew it was possible, though in denial, feeling warmth inside the eggs when everyone else could only feel cold stone. She may have created her own fire and blood magic technique, and if she wasn't the spell's creator, it was lost within the doom of Valyria, with the rest of her homeland's knowledge. Daenerys believes there's a fire within her, but previously it wasn't hot enough to truly be the blood of the dragon that she was destined to be. But this mysterious fireproof phenomena is just a one-time thing. Whatever spell she conjured here gave her complete resistance to the flames, but soon enough she would burn and blister like everyone else, unlike the show. This whole time, Melisandre was serving Stannis Baratheon, under the belief that he was the prophesized hero that will wake dragons out of stone, so she confirms that this event is something seen in visions. I talk all about Melisandre and her struggles reading the metaphoric visions in flames in my last video. I'll leave that up if you want to check it out. Thanks for watching this one, guys. I'll see y'all later.